Ever since Brexit was voted for by the British people, bureaucrats from all over the world has tried to keep the UK within the EU. Whether you're for or against Brexit, I think we can all agree that it should be the people within a democracy that rule, not unelected foreign politicians. Still, those are the exact same people now threatening the UK for leaving the EU, and now they're intervening in other sovereign UK decisions. So, the Good Friday deal was agreed upon by both the UK and Ireland at the same time when those nations were entering the EU. Now, since Brexit happened, both the UK and Northern Ireland are forming a new deal that has the potential to take away power from Brussels back into the UK. And if there's one thing these unelected bureaucrats don't like, it's losing power. So the EU is now trying to take the rest of the power it does hold over the UK and force its will into these new deals. People like Charles Michel, the European Council President of the European Union, this guy, and Joe Biden, potential President of the United States, are trying to influence how this new deal would look like. Not the first overreach by the EU, but this time I don't think the Brits will stand for it. In today's video, we will take a look at exactly what the EU is threatening the UK with and what the Brits are saying about it. Let's begin right after the intro. Alright guys, welcome to the channel. My name is Soran. So before we get into today's video, I'll just take a super quick moment of silence for the billions of people out there who are not yet subscribed to my channel. In this moment of silence, you have a chance to not be one of those endless billions of people and click the subscribe button, and then you can take the moment of silence with me. It'll just be 5 seconds starting now. Beautiful guys, awesome. So in 1998, the Good Friday deal was signed, and at the very least it brought some level of peace back into the Northern Ireland region, the border between Northern Ireland and England. During that same time, around the same time, both nations joined the EU, and that gave the EU a bunch of rights over trades between Northern Ireland, England, and the rest of Europe for that matter. So now that the Brexit has happened, the EU is using this issue to make sure that the UK still has one foot within the EU and pretty much is unable to leave until now at the very least. And I just want to say in general, I don't think it's a good idea for foreign politicians to meddle in sovereign nations' democratic decisions. But here we are. In a moment, we'll take a look at what the EU is threatening the UK with and what Joe Biden also said that he would do to the UK if he becomes president. But before we do, I just want to show you this article that explains the whole situation pretty well. It's a really complicated issue, so it helps to have this resume of what's going on until this point in time, especially for you people who don't know. So here we go. The 1998 peace deal, known as the Good Friday Agreement, subdued the violence in Northern Ireland, but it did not resolve the underlying sectarian conflict that propelled it. Northern Ireland is in the United Kingdom. Unionists or loyalists who tend to identify as Protestant and as British want it to remain that way. Nationalists or Republicans who tend to identify as Catholic and Irish want a united Ireland. The peace between these factions was facilitated by a tangentially related circumstance. Both the United Kingdom and Ireland had by then joined the European Union, the EU. This arrangement ensured uninhibited trade across the border, helping to render it virtually invisible and placating many Irish nationalists with circumstances they deemed acceptable, if not ideal. At the time the peace agreement was signed, however, a different movement was growing across the Irish Sea in England, a skepticism of the European Union bubbling up among voters on both ends of the political spectrum, but embraced in particular by the conservative hard right. As populist, nationalist parties grew in strength across Europe and much of the globe, this skepticism culminated in the 2016 Brexit referendum. Few of the hardline politicians who advocated Brexit seemed to consider the consequences that pushed to take back control, the campaign slogan of Brexit, would have on the delicate peace in Northern Ireland, or, for that matter, on the cohesion of the United Kingdom itself. In the more than 3 years since the referendum, the matter of Northern Ireland has presented a unique and treacherous stumbling block to any agreement between the British government and the European Union on the terms of withdrawal. How would the United Kingdom take back control of its borders without hardening the Irish border, thereby endangering the Good Friday Agreement? However this question was answered, one side or the other in the sectarian divide was bound to be upset. Alright, so on the surface you could say that the EU is just trying to protect the deal that was signed in 1998. But I'm afraid my view is a bit more cynical. When it comes to these unelected bureaucrats, I really think that more often than not, it has way more to do with maintaining and keeping power than anything else. But at the very least, it sounds really good if you say that you just want everyone to be happy, right? So this article says, respect for international law is not optional, EU chief tells UN in thinly veiled reference to the UK. Britain's plan to flout international law over Northern Ireland will not break the Brexit deadlock, with the European Union more than ever determined to defend the rules-based international order, European Council President Charles Michel warned on Friday. In a thinly veiled reference to the UK, Michel told the United Nations General Assembly via video link that respect for treaties, a basic principle of international law, comes to be considered optional even by those who, until recently, were its historical guarantors. All this in the name of partisan interests. So already here, I think Charles sounds a little biased, right? He goes on to say, more than ever, the European Union is defending the rules-based international order and cooperation based on universal values. The European Union wants to be stronger, more autonomous, and firmer to defend a fairer world. The European Union wants to be stronger and more autonomous. Charles is basically saying that the decision, the sovereign democratic decision by the British people, is threatening the EU's autonomy, their ability to govern themselves. I think this really speaks to how Charles views the world. The fact that the UK is trying to make this sovereign decision, he sees that as a threat to the autonomy of the EU. I saw a poll recently where people, in terms of trusting the EU, the member nations, the different people within all of these nations, they trust the EU when it comes to promoting democratic values, promoting prosperity, but they don't trust the EU when it comes to not overreaching with their authority. And I think that's exactly what's going on here. And I think that's why a lot of people within the EU is beginning to distrust, I think it's called in English, to distrust the EU. So what exactly is Charles threatening with here? Well, he goes on to say right here, we are now developing these values and this open model with greater awareness of our strength, with more realism and perhaps less naivety. We have faith in the virtues of free and open economics, never in protectionism. But access to our large market, the second largest economic zone in the world and the first in terms of international trade, will no longer be sold off. From now on, we will better enforce the level playing field in a market open to those who respect its standards, whether they leave our union or want to move closer to it, he added. And there we have it. To those who respect its standards. No, the UK, you will not be allowed, unless you do as I say, to trade with the rest of the EU. So obviously this is very tough rhetoric against the UK, but I think for now that's probably all it's going to be. These politicians have a tendency to use tough rhetoric as a bargaining chip and then kind of meet more in the middle once things settle down a little bit. And speaking of politicians, let's take a look at what Joe Biden had to say about the whole Good Friday agreement. He said, Joe Biden on Twitter, he said, "We can't allow the Good Friday agreement that brought peace to Northern Ireland to become a casualty of Brexit. Any trade deal between the US and UK must be contingent upon respect for the agreement and preventing the return of a hard border, period." So the hard border he's talking about here is the fact that right now between Northern Ireland and England, there essentially is no border when it comes to trading with Northern Ireland, England, and the rest of Europe. If they were to fulfill a Brexit, completely leave the EU, you would go back under individual countries' rules. So there would all of a sudden be a need for a border between Northern Ireland and England. So that's what he's addressing in terms of the Good Friday Agreement. But you see what kind of rhetoric he's using here, right? He's going after trades just the same way that the EU is, almost as if there's an agreement or at the very least understanding between Joe Biden and the EU. But that would be going into conspiracy waters. And we don't like conspiracy waters because there's a bunch of YouTube censor sharks in those waters. So we shall stay away. The good news is you don't have to worry too much about what Biden said because he will probably forget what he said just a few minutes ago. The current Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo from the United States, recently said that he trusts the UK to make its own decision. So that's a very clear difference between the two. And I don't think it's a good idea to go after your oldest ally in terms of their own domestic affairs. I don't think that's a good idea, but we'll see how things pan out. All right, so I do try to be fair and always look at both sides of the issue. And I do want to say that it does look like the market bill that Boris Johnson is pushing through Parliament right now does have some ability to override some of these sections within the original Good Friday Agreement. So people have to take that into consideration, and I'm sure that's going to be debated much in the next few days in the Parliament in the UK. But I do think that being an expert in British law is completely beside the point here. My whole point with this video is that I don't like the way that unelected bureaucrats in Brussels are gaining power and trying to keep it, especially when these single countries are doing a Brexit or they're trying to make their own deals within their own countries. Then the EU is overreaching with its authority. They're coming in to try to determine whether or not you can do it, especially if it's between two nations, two sovereign nations. I don't like the way it's being done, and I think it shows you that these nations, these member states of the EU, are beginning to realize that they're losing more and more power. Because power has a tendency to accumulate and accumulate, and these people that are unelected and they're put in these positions, they gain a certain amount of power, and I just don't think it's human nature once you achieve that kind of status to let power go. I want to believe the best in people, but you have to be rational about it also. I think that's the side of the EU that's obviously overreaching, that's obviously always seeking to gain more power when it should just stay within the limits of the reasons why it was founded in the first place. All right, I'll stop here before I get too dark. Remember to subscribe to the channel if you like this video, and if you really want to help me out, if you think I'm doing a good job with these daily videos, then please share my video on your social media. Obviously, it helps me out when you do that, but more importantly, it gets this information out to more people. So otherwise, thank you so much for watching this video until the very end. Have a great day, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.